It had been exactly 372 days since we broke up. Not that I was counting. Okay, maybe I was. There's a very specific kind of ache that comes from seeing the person you used to love in public, unexpectedly. I didn't plan it. I was just at this small bar downtown, some reunion thing for people from my old job, and I turned around to grab another beer, and there he was, Julian. Still with that damn olive green jacket he always wore when it was just a little too warm for jackets. Still with that half smile that looked like he knew a joke no one else did. I froze. He didn't see me at first. He was talking to someone. A guy the first didn't recognize, but the way his shoulders sat, the way his hands moved while he talked, it was all the same, familiar in a way that made my throat tighten. He finally looked over, our eyes locked, and just like that, my stomach flipped. He didn't look away. He just raised one eyebrow slightly and gave me the smallest nod. It wasn't dramatic. No rush across the room. No slow motion movie moment. Just a nod, like, yeah, I see you. I should have walked away. I told myself that as I downed the rest of my drink. Instead, I walked over. Hey, I said. My voice sounded more casual than I felt. Didn't expect to see you here. Julian's mouth quirked up into that smile I used to love and hate all at once. Hey, Liam? Yeah, same. There was an awkward beat of silence. The guy he was talking to disappeared into the crowd, maybe sensing the shift. You look good, Julian said. That was all it took. Just 3 words. And suddenly I was back in his old apartment, barefoot on the cold tile floor, listening to him hum while making coffee. Just 3 words, and I remembered the last time I saw him, standing by my front door, holding his keys out like they were too heavy to keep. You too, I replied. He gestured toward the back patio. Wanna talk? And I don't know why I said yes. Maybe because I never really wanted to say no in the first place. The back patio was quieter, half lit by string lights that gave everything a soft, nostalgic glow. There were a couple of people smoking in one corner, but otherwise, it felt like we were alone. Julian leaned against the railing, and I took the empty stool beside him. For a second, neither of us said anything. The sounds from the bar faded into a kind of soft hum behind us. So, I said, mostly to break the silence. What have you been up to? He looked out toward the parking lot, then back at me. Work's been nuts. I'm in a new studio now. Moved apartments in January. Yeah? That's good. I kept my voice neutral, like I wasn't still in tune with everything he did. I hadn't followed him on Instagram since the breakup, but I'd be lying if I said I never peeked. Julian tilted his head. You still working from home? Mostly. Took on some new clients, though. It's been busy. He nodded, then gave a soft laugh. This is weird, huh? Very. Another pause. I almost didn't come tonight, he admitted. But I thought, what are the odds, right? I didn't know if he meant running into me or just attending at all. Probably both. He glanced over at me. You look different. Better or worse? I teased, trying to keep it light. Julian smiled. Better. Just older, maybe. In a good way. I didn't know how to respond to that, so I just looked away for a second, catching my breath. There was something familiar in the way we stood there. Not close, not touching, but still within each other's orbit. It reminded me of late nights on his balcony, beers in hand, shoulders brushing, talking about everything and nothing. He shifted, resting his elbows on the railing. Do you think about it? Us, I mean. I looked at him, really looked. He wasn't asking to mess with me. There was something raw in his voice. Cautious, like he already expected the answer to hurt. Yeah, I said. I do. Julian's lips pressed into a line. He looked down at his hands. I think I messed it up, he said quietly. It hit me harder than I expected. You didn't mess it up alone, I said. We stopped talking. We got tired. I got tired. And I didn't know how to fix it. He looked at me again, and for a moment, it felt like we were still in it. Like there was still something tethering us together. I was angry for a long time, he admitted. But underneath that, I just missed you. That did it. The breath caught in my throat. All the things I'd pushed down over the last year started crawling their way back up. I missed you too, I said quietly, even when I tried not to. We didn't hug, we didn't kiss. We just stood there in the quiet, letting the weight of what we were, and what we weren't anymore, settle between us. But it didn't feel like an end. It felt like something was starting again. I didn't sleep much after I got home that night. My apartment felt colder than usual, like something had been knocked out of place just by seeing him again. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling fan, Julian's voice looping through my head. I missed you. I didn't expect to hear from him again so soon, but around noon the next day, my phone buzzed. Julian, hey, I'm at that bakery on 5th. Want to grab coffee? I stared at the message like it was radioactive. A year ago, we'd made a rule. No getting back together. If we broke up, we broke up. We didn't want to be one of those couples who kept circling the drain, pretending things were going to be different. But that rule felt flimsy now. Arbitrary. Like something two people say when they're hurt and trying to save face. I typed back, give me 20. When I got there, he was already at a corner table, 2 coffees in front of him like he wasn't sure I'd come but hoped I would. Hey, I said, sliding into the chair across from him. He smiled. Hey. We sat in silence for a second before he pushed one of the cups toward me. Still take it black? Yeah, I said. Still hate yourself enough to drink that oat milk foam thing? He laughed, and it was warm, easy, like it used to be. You know me, he said, picking at the edge of his cup lid, stubborn to the bitter end. I looked at him. He had this way of filling silence that used to comfort me, but today it was different. He didn't jump in. He let the quiet stretch between us, like he wanted me to decide what this was. So, what is this? I asked. He exhaled slowly. Honestly, I don't know. I saw you last night and it was like, everything I've been pretending to be okay with kind of stopped making sense. I sipped my coffee, heart pounding. And you think grabbing coffee fixes that? No, he said, serious now, but maybe talking about it does. There was a part of me that wanted to run, to protect whatever fragile version of peace I'd managed to build since he left. But there was another part, the bigger part, that leaned forward. Okay, I said. Let's talk. He nodded, like he'd been waiting for that. Do you remember that trip we took to Asheville? He asked suddenly. Yeah, I said. Of course. You had that terrible cold, and we ended up stuck in the cabin for 3 days. And you made soup from scratch because I wouldn't stop whining, I added, grinning. He smiled. I didn't mind it. I actually liked taking care of you. I swallowed, not trusting myself to say anything. I think, he said, a lot of what went wrong between us had more to do with timing than anything else. We weren't ready for each other. Or maybe we weren't ready for the parts of ourselves that being with each other brought out. I nodded slowly. I kept pushing you away every time I felt like I needed space. And then I resented you for not pulling me back. I didn't know how, he said, and I didn't know I was supposed to. There it was. The honesty we never managed when we were actually together. I don't know if trying again is the right move, I said, but I know I'm not ready to pretend I don't care about you. Julian looked at me like he was memorizing my face. That's all I needed to hear. We didn't define anything that day. We didn't jump back into something or call it a second chance. We just sat there for a while, nursing our coffee and talking like we hadn't in over a year. It wasn't a grand reconciliation, but it was a start. After the coffee, we didn't want it to end. We didn't say that out loud, of course, but it was obvious in the way neither of us stood up. Julian finally said, "You doing anything right now?" I shook my head. Not really. He glanced outside, where the light was starting to soften into that late afternoon haze. Want to go walk around? We ended up on the trail near the river, a spot we used to go when we were still figuring things out in the beginning. Back when every touch was electric, and we were both a little afraid of how much we liked each other. Funny how the same path could hold so many different versions of us. Julian was walking just a little closer than someone who was just a friend should, and I didn't move away. His hand brushed mine a few times. I didn't pull back, neither did he. "So," I said after a while, "are you seeing anyone?" Julian shook his head. "Went on a few dates, nothing serious. I think I wasn't really open to it, to be honest." I didn't say anything right away. I was afraid of what he might ask me in return. "You?" he asked, softer. "Same," I admitted. "Some dates, mostly just distractions." He looked at me then, really looked. "Why do you think that is?" I shrugged. "Maybe because none of them were you." He stopped walking. I froze too. "That's a heavy thing to say," he said, not angry. "Just aware." "It's true," I said. He smiled faintly. "Then maybe we owe it to ourselves to see if there's anything still here." I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. Instead, I asked, "Do you want to come over for dinner?" His smile widened, just slightly. I'd like that. Back in my apartment, everything felt weirdly natural. I was chopping vegetables, and Julian was leaning against the counter, drinking a cider he found in my fridge, like this was 2021 again, and we were still living in each other's space. "You still make that chili?" he asked. I laughed. "Still too spicy for normal human consumption?" "Yeah," he grinned. And for a second, I thought I saw something flicker in his eyes. Something warm, familiar. Something that used to live between us all the time. We ate on the couch, because that's how we always used to do it. No table between us, just our knees bumping and casual conversation. Every now and then, we'd glance at each other and the silence would settle between us. Not awkward, just full. After dinner, we sat there in the quiet, both holding empty bowls, neither one making a move to stand. Julian finally spoke. "Being here feels good. Like maybe we were just waiting for the right version of ourselves to show up." "I was scared to see you again," I admitted. "I didn't know if it would break me or fix something." "And?" he asked. "I don't know yet." Julian put his bowl down on the coffee table and turned toward me. "Would it be okay if I kissed you?" I didn't even answer. I just leaned in. It wasn't desperate. It wasn't rushed. It was the kind of kiss you give someone when you're both old and new to each other, when you know what they taste like, but not who they've become since the last time. When we pulled apart, he kept his forehead against mine. "I've missed this," he whispered. "Me too." We didn't sleep together that night. He went home a little after midnight, kissed me on the cheek before leaving, and promised to call in the morning. And for the first time in a long time, I believed him. Julian did call the next morning. We met for brunch, walked around the neighborhood like a couple, and laughed more than we had in months. It was easy. Weirdly easy. And that scared me more than I wanted to admit. A week passed like that, seeing each other almost every day, cooking dinner, watching movies, sitting in bed and talking about random stuff like we hadn't missed a year in between. We hadn't officially defined anything, but it felt like something was being rebuilt from the ground up. Then, on a random Thursday night, it happened. We were at my place, lounging on the couch, a half-watched movie playing in the background. Julian had his legs draped across mine, his head resting on a throw pillow, scrolling through something on his phone. "I ran into Casey today," he said casually. I stiffened a little. "Yeah?" He glanced up at me. "She asked about you." Casey, his coworker, the one I always had a weird feeling about during the last few months we were together. "What'd you say?" I asked, trying to sound indifferent. "That you're doing good. That we've been talking again." I nodded. "Cool." He put his phone down. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said too quickly. Julian sat up. "Liam," I sighed, running a hand through my hair. I remember how often you used to lie about hanging out with her." "I never lied." "You didn't tell the truth either," I said, quieter now. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I never cheated, Liam. Not emotionally, not physically. I know it felt shady. I know I messed that up. But I never crossed that line. I wanted to believe you back then," I said. "But you were so distant. And every time I brought it up, You made me feel like I was being dramatic. Julian closed his eyes for a moment. I know, and I'm sorry. I should have listened. I should have been honest about how unhappy I was, instead of acting like everything was fine. We sat in that quiet for a while. The kind that isn't awkward, just loaded. I wasn't perfect either, I admitted. I shut down. I let the resentment build. I think I expected you to read my mind. I couldn't, he said, but I wanted to. That part broke something in me a little. He moved closer, rested a hand on my knee. Can I ask you something? I nodded. Do you actually want this? Us? Or are you just trying to make peace with something that hurt you? That question hit harder than I expected, but I knew the answer. I want this, I said. Not the version we had before, but this. Whatever this new thing is. Julian exhaled, like he'd been holding that breath since the night at the bar. Me too. We didn't fix everything that night, but we started talking more honestly about what went wrong, about what we needed. We made promises not about forever, but about effort, about showing up. And honestly, that felt like enough for now. It happened at Gabe's housewarming party. Gabe was one of our mutual friends, neutral territory. The invite said casual drinks and good people, and it felt like the right moment to show up as a unit. We hadn't said it out loud, but walking into a party together again felt real. Julian drove. I wore that dark green shirt he used to like, the one he once said made my eyes look dangerously inviting, back when flirting was still part of our everyday language. When we walked in, someone said, "Liam and Julian, huh?" With that half-joking, half-curious tone people use when they don't know where the line is. We just smiled. We were still figuring it out ourselves. For the first hour, it was nice. Laughing with people we hadn't seen in months, refilling drinks, playing catch-up. But then I saw him, Tyler. Tyler wasn't anything serious. We went on 3 dates 6 months ago. He was sweet, maybe too sweet. Julian didn't know about him. Not in detail, anyway. Hey, Tyler said, coming over. Liam, wow, been a while. Julian was at the snack table, but close enough to hear. I gave Tyler a polite smile. Yeah, it has. How have you been? Good. Busy, he said, then paused. So, are you two back together? I blinked. Sort of. Yeah. Tyler nodded slowly. He's lucky. That caught me off guard. Before I could respond, Julian walked up behind me. Hey, he said, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Everything good? Yeah, I said quickly. Julian, this is Tyler. Julian gave a tight smile, nodding. Nice to meet you. Likewise, Tyler said, before drifting off. We didn't talk about it right away, but I felt the change. The way Julian's shoulders stiffened. The way he suddenly got very into asking Gabe about property taxes. Later, on the drive home, he finally spoke. Tyler, huh? I looked out the window. It wasn't anything serious. How long? 3 dates. Tops. He didn't say anything for a minute. Just drove. I didn't expect to feel jealous, he said quietly. You don't have to be. It's not about him. It's about realizing you let people in. While I was trying not to feel anything, I turned toward him. You left, Julian. I didn't know you'd ever come back. His grip tightened on the wheel. I know. I wish I had. We pulled into my driveway and sat in silence. I never stopped thinking about you, he said. Even when I was with other people, which I guess is what pisses me off, because you moved on, even just a little. And I still felt stuck. Is that what you want? I asked. To punish me for coping? He looked at me, really looked. No. I want to figure out how to stop being scared of losing you again. That cracked something open in both of us. I reached over and took his hand. Then, let's figure it out, together. He didn't answer, he just squeezed my hand back. And that was enough. It had been 3 weeks since that night in the car. Since Tyler. since we decided, without quite saying it, that we were in this again. Not just hanging out, not just talking, together. But something was still hovering in the background, something unspoken. Like we were both afraid to call it what it was because we didn't want to break whatever fragile piece we'd rebuilt. One night, I invited Julian over for dinner. I cooked. He brought wine. We ate on the couch, like always. Afterward, we just sat there, legs tangled, a documentary playing in the background neither of us was really watching. Then he said it. "What are we doing, Liam?" I didn't pretend not to understand. "I don't know," I said. "Something that feels good." He nodded. "It does. But is it real? Is it sustainable?" I turned toward him. "You want to define it?" He looked nervous. "I want to know if this is something we're building or just revisiting." I didn't answer right away. Julian continued, quieter now. "I'm scared we're just patching over old cracks, that we're falling into each other because it's familiar, not because it's right." My chest tightened. "I've thought about that too." He looked surprised that I admitted it. "But I also think this," I gestured between us, "feels different than before. We're not pretending anymore. We're saying what we need. We're not perfect, but it doesn't feel like a fix. It feels like a restart." Julian leaned back, exhaling. "So we try again?" "We try again," I said. He reached for my hand. "Can we take it slow this time? Like, intentionally slow?" I smiled. "Like old people dating in a rom-com slow?" He laughed. "Exactly." So we made a plan. No moving in, no rushing. Just one date a week. No overnight expectations. More honesty, even when it was awkward. It wasn't sexy. It wasn't cinematic. But it felt good. Real. We didn't post about each other. We didn't label anything for anyone else. It was ours, quiet and steady. The way it should have been all along. And on a Sunday morning a few weeks later, he brought over bagels without asking, sat on my floor while I folded laundry, and looked up at me and said, "I like this version of us." And I knew then, we weren't circling back, we were moving forward.